Hello everyone, my name is Ann Gillespie Mitchell and I'm an employee here at Ancestry.com. I work as a product manager and I also get to substitute or work as Ancestry Ann and answer some of your questions. We do that on the blog, on our Sticky Tumblers blog, and we also do our Sticky Notes blog, and we also do it here in Facebook. Today I have a user question that I think will help demonstrate a good example of how to use some of the clues that you find in documents to take you back a generation and learn more about your family. Now, we don't get the easy questions here at ask@ancestry.com because if they're easy, you know, if you can look in the 1850 census and find the person you're looking for and their parents, you pretty much know who your parents are. It's the ones where it's not so obvious. But just because it's not obvious and you just can't trace through the censuses doesn't mean that the answers aren't out there. So, let's look at today's question. There we go. All right. Today's question is a fairly short one, but it's got enough information that we can get started. It says, my grandfather's name was, and I am not going to say this correctly, in Flournoy. I apologize, but Flournoy Hill. Maybe somebody else can do a better job of pronouncing it than I can. It's one of those great names, though. And what I love about this particular name is that it will help show a couple things. One, it's unique, which means we're not going to see a lot of these out there. Two, I had trouble pronouncing it. However it's pronounced, you can guess in any census, in any record, it's going to be spelled multiple ways. It's a unique name, and those names tend to get misspelled or have variations quite often. We know he was married to a Jenny Yoder. He was born in Indiana in 1843, and he fought in the Civil War. Knowing the state he was born in the year is really critical. And he's died in Arkansas. Now, you can find people even if you don't know those things, but that's a pretty good amount of information for us to get started. Alright, so I'm going to go over here to, there we go, the website. Hopefully you all can see that. And I've pre-populated a little bit. I've got Flournoy Hill typed in. And then I'm going to enter in 1843, because that's the year we know he was born, in Indiana. Now I'm going to choose Indiana from the type ahead, and the reason is that if I want to start filtering down, I can do that by clicking on Use Default Settings and then restrict to this place exactly. But because I don't know a lot about Flournoy yet, I'm just going to keep it as a general search. You'll notice that I have restricted the last name to exact, phonetic, and similar, and you can change those settings like by clicking on that and then changing them there. For the first name, I just sense this is going to be misspelled, and I've just left it at that. Now, I also know that he died in Arkansas, so I will go ahead and enter that in. Alright, so I will do a search. And I really don't see anything that looks very close. So, what other information do I have that I can add in? Well, I know that he was married to a Jenny Yoder. So I'm going to click here on Edit Search. And under Family Member, I'm going to say Spouse. Oops, there we go. Jenny. I'm not going to put in a last name because I assume they're married and the name's the same. Jenny here is the thing that will help me, hopefully. Ah, now that does look promising. April 1843 in Indiana, FLNA Hill, and whatever alternate that is. So let's take a look at this particular record. First I go over to the record page, and I see what I'm guessing is Flournoy, Jenny Hill, and 3 children, Edgar, Aletta, and Reuben. And they were living in Independence, Arkansas. Now if I go over here, and what we're going to find in the image is that they've been married 38 years and they were married in 1862 according to this. We're going to find out actually that that's wrong. Now when you go over to the image, you can make it a little bit bigger and maximize your screen space. You can click on this gray arrow and that will move that panel over, and you can click here and that moves it down. So we want to find them. Whoops, we want to find them here. There they are. You can see where Flournoy, you can see how that might have gotten mispronounced. A couple things I want you to notice here. We know he was born in 1843. He was born in Indiana. So this is probably our guy. I mean, how many Flournoy Hills can there be? His father was born in Pennsylvania and his mother in Ohio. Now, we don't know who reported this information to the census taker, but it's what we've got, so that's useful. He's been married to Jenny for 38 years. They've had 5 children, or Jenny's had 5 children, and 4 of them are living. So there's one more child who's not in this household, because we noticed there were 3 living. Jenny was born in Ohio, as were her parents. Another thing that you might want to notice here is all 3 of these children were born in Indiana. So what does that tell us? It tells us between 1877 and 1881, this family was probably living in Indiana. So that's where we'd want to go look for them back in some of these other censuses. So these are important details that you want to look for. All right, now if we go back here, you'll notice here on the side, and I hope you all are taking advantage of these suggested records over there, because they are really they are really helping find records for you very quickly. So it points out the 1880 census, the marriage collection. He mentioned that he was a Civil War soldier, and also the Civil War pension. And while we don't have the actual pension records, you'd have to get those from the National Archives. That can be very useful. I'll come back and talk about that in a minute. But what I'd like to look at is the actual Indiana marriage collection. Now this says that Jane Yoder and Flournoy Hill were married on 8 September 1872. That was 1872 and not 1862. I suspect it was wrong in the census and not wrong on the actual marriage license. They were married in Kosciuszko. Again, I'm probably butchering that. In Indiana. All right, so that's really useful information for us. So we know they were born in 1872, which probably makes more sense if you think about the children's birth dates, because they were 77, 79, and 81. So chances are there was a child before that, and that fits better with 1872. You usually don't get huge gaps of 10 years before a couple starts having children. So you expect them to be born about every other year from the time they were married. So what this means is that Flournoy Hill was probably living with his parents in 1870. And they were probably living, not for sure, but they were probably living in Kosciuszko County, Indiana. So this gives us something to go on. We can start looking for hills in this county in Indiana. So now we have a place we can go look. So let's go try that. All right, so I'm going to go over here to Ancestry.com, and I'm going to type in, whoops, I spelled it wrong, though I'm beginning to guess that this doesn't matter too much. And I've chosen the correct county from the type ahead, and I'm going to set it to exact, because I just want to limit the hills here to exact. Actually, why don't we just not use a first name? Why don't we just do a surname search in this particular county? So I'm going to do a search. And I just want to look at 1870. So the fastest way to get there from a global search, which is what I just did, was to click on Census and Voter List. Scroll down here a little bit, and then I can click on 1870. All right, so I have 190 to look at here. Now I want to show you something. Now all I've got here in my results are 1870. But if I click over here, I'm going to get a very different layout. And the layout I get here is going to make it a little bit easier to scan. So as I look down here, I can start to see if I see anyone that looks like they might be the right person. But I'm seeing a big difference here in ages from what I really want. So what I think I might do is go over here and say Edit Search. And I'm going to put in 1843, and I might as well put in Indiana because I believe that to be true. And see if that doesn't reorder my searches a little bit. So it does. And now I'm only getting 33 people. So that makes it a little bit easier to scan. So I go down this list, and I'll tell you right now, he's not in this particular list. All right. So sometimes, the one thing about the 1870, I think it's something like 12% of all households were not included in the 1870 census. So if you're really having trouble finding somebody in 1870, they may just not be there. So let's go back up. And let's look in 1860. Florinda Hill. Sounds almost like a female name, but it's sort of close. I think we should go look at that one. And they were born in 1846. All right. So, again, this is 1860, so it does not state that these children were the children of Reuben and Rebecca. However, it's a clue, right? It's a place to start. It's a theory for us to start checking. I've also noticed here, and this is a little odd, it jumps here 17, 10, 14, 9. That's a little odd. Usually they put them in order, but you just never know on a census. So if I go here, I'm trying to find hills. There we go. All right. Right there, that is, you know, that could be Flournoy. I just know that that's a name that gets misspelled a lot. So this could be a family that's worth investigating. This might be somebody, he might be the child or relative of Reuben Hill. So this is really interesting. We may be onto something here. So let's go up here to Reuben Hill. All right, so we know he's born in 1807 in Pennsylvania. Well, that's also interesting because we remember from the 1900 census that Flournoy's father was born in Pennsylvania. His mother was born in Ohio. This lady is born in Virginia. It may be wrong, or this may be a second wife. So we really don't know. Or maybe this isn't the right family at all. But now let's go search for Reuben. So I'm going to go back here to my search, and I'm going to edit it. I'm going to see if I can find Reuben. I'm going to put 1805 and round here. And I'm going to look in Pennsylvania, for he's born in Pennsylvania. And I'm going to try and spell it correctly. And same county, and see if I can't find him in 1850. All right, so 1860, sure enough, we found him because we just saw him. That's a little bit of cheating there. And then I'm going to go down here. And I'm going to choose 1850. Reuben Hill. But that's Hill. That looks like a typo, doesn't it? Reuben, Rebecca, William, Jemima, James, Solomon. Solomon was in the other one. Frenay. Boy, that sure sounds like Flournoy. And Anne. I believe she was also in the other one. We'll go over here and we'll look at the image. And this particular image, I don't know. I don't know how you would read this one. You might want to save this and try and reverse it or something, but it's really, really hard to read. But I really think that Reuben, at least, and maybe Rebecca, are the parents of Flournoy. I think this is the best lead that you've got. Now, you're going to have to do some other checking. What I would do is I would save all of this to a tree. I would start to research Solomon. I would start to research James and Anne, see if they have marriage licenses, see if you can find ways to tie these together. Maybe somebody's a witness on something. Another thing that you might want to do to prove this one out is, you remember, if we were back here on the Indiana Marriage Collection and we saw the Civil War Pension Index, General Index to Pension Files, if you go look at that, this is really just the index card. And this one was filed in Arkansas. But what you'll see here is this gentleman was in the 22nd Indiana Infantry. He's listed as an invalid, and this gives the certificate number, and it filed from Arkansas. He served in Indiana, and it's Flournoy Hill. But it was filed in Arkansas, and the date of filing was 1889. Now, we know in 1900, because we saw that census, he was in Arkansas, so this is probably him. Now, you can order the complete pension record from the National Archives, and you can get a lot of information. Now, it probably is not going to have information about his parents, but you may have something in there about his brothers and sisters, or just other interesting things about the family. So if you're really trying to learn more about this man, you would probably want to do this. But I really believe that we're on to something here with Reuben and Rebecca Hill. And how we did that was by taking the records we had. We looked at the census. We figured out where his parents were born. We found the marriage, the index to the marriage. We found the county. And then we just started searching that county for that surname and trying to find people. On a name like Furnoy, or something that's not very common, you're going to get all sorts of variations. So you have to sort of open yourself up to look for anything that's absolutely close. But now at least you've got a family that you can go do more research on and determine if this is actually Furnoy's family. Because that's what you have to do. Come up with a theory and then go test it. All right. I hope this was helpful. Just sometimes running through somebody else's problem might give you a few ideas on your own. But remember to look at all the details on the record. So what's next? Well, we have a lot of stuff coming up. Whoops. That is not what we want to see. There we go. As you all know, next Monday, I think it's Monday, is April 2nd, which means the 1940 census is coming out. So we have all sorts of interesting, let me fix that typo there. We have all sorts of interesting presentations coming up on that. But before we get into that, Juliana Smith tomorrow will be doing I don't have the date on here, will be doing a presentation on Family Tree Maker 2012. I believe it's on Thursday, Krista Cowan will be doing a Getting Ready for the 1940 Census. You don't want to miss that. And at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, Krista will be doing a tweet chat. You can always look at our Facebook page for more details on our events. You can read my blog at stickynotestumblr.com, and you can send questions from me or Krista at askancestry.com. Just to remind you, we've gone to that lovely new timeline presentation on Facebook. So what you're going to see over here is this big image, and if you want to go to events, you go down here to these images, and if you click here, let's scroll a little bit, you'll see events. And you may just want to bookmark this page if you really like coming to see all of us talk. This is today's event, Juliana. And then as you can see, we're getting ready for 1940. And all next week, we're going to start doing 1940 lookups live and just talking more about 1940 and helping you guys figure out how to find your ancestors. Images will be coming online as fast as they can, but the index will be a little while, so it's going to take some creativity on your part to find out where your ancestors are. All right, I hope this was helpful. I know, like you, I can't wait for next week in the 1940 census. Make sure you check in where Krista, our Barefoot genealogist, will be giving you a hand with the 1940 census, and I'm sure some of the rest of us will help her out too. See you then.